Welcome to Tactics Adrift, a competitive turn-based game set in our solar system's dystopian future. Beneath the simplicity of the charming old-school graphics lies a complex strategic puzzle that is constantly in motion. Unlike other turn-based games, players plan their moves at the same time, which means every action you take requires a careful balance of offense and defense. It is a perilous game of hide-and-seek amongst the stars where dangers lurk just outside of sensor range. In the world of Tactics Adrift, humanity has strived to reach the stars, but we never managed to escape the heliosphere. While technology has continued to advance, war and greed have reduced our planets to ruin. All that remains is in the hands of the Gilded Barons, reclusive figures of unimaginable wealth. Bound by mutually assured destruction, they appear peaceful, content to live out the final days of the solar system in luxury. However, they are actually waging a proxy war for the ravaged remains of our planets and moons, and they need mercenaries. You. As the commander, you'll assemble your fleet from one of several factions: the Sol Republic, an organization of disillusioned idealists; the Ephemeris Syndicate, a band of exiled smugglers; or the Callistans, a group of downtrodden colonists. Each has a unique playstyle, with a cast of captains and a wider range of ships, from long-range snipers to close-range brawlers, and everything in between. Before the game begins, you'll assemble your personal battle group. You can experiment with powerful ability combinations, or go all in on a specific strategy. The choice is up to you. Each game pits two fleets against each other to claim a sector of space for the warring Gilded Barons. You'll need to capture the abandoned mining outposts hidden within the sector to build influence over time. But your sensors are limited in the dense asteroid fields, making it difficult to spot obstacles or threats. Your first challenge is mastering movement in space using your ship's realistic engines, which apply acceleration rather than instantaneous velocity. If you've calculated your course incorrectly, you might find your ships hurtling towards an asteroid without time to swerve away. You'll also need to dodge incoming ordnance from your opponent. Fortunately, you have the ability to rewind previous turns and scan forward to simulate future ones, which is essential for planning the perfect move. This will help you strategize how to use your arsenal of railguns, missiles, and defensive abilities and think ahead. The game is a tactical puzzle that is constantly evolving. Space is large and your projectiles may take multiple turns to reach their intended target. By the time they arrive, your opponent may have changed course, so you'll need to predict where they'll move. The final twist is that you can't do it all. Bound by a reactor that only produces a certain amount of energy each turn, you'll need to make careful choices about what you value most. Do you perform a hard braking burn to avoid an incoming railgun slug? Or do you maintain connection to an outpost to gather influence? Is it more important to save up energy for a future turn, or apply pressure now in hopes of creating a greater opportunity later? In Tactics Adrift, you're battling not only your opponent, but also the limitations of time, physics, and scarce resources. However, if you creatively command your fleet, you'll be unstoppable. Now let's jump into some live gameplay with the first 3 rounds of a match. It's the start of the game, and my ships have spawned in the bottom right, and my opponent has spawned in the top left. Our goal is to be the first to reach 600 influence, which can be gained by capturing one of the 3 center outposts. Each of my ships has a unique role, and I want to maneuver them to take advantage of their strengths. I'll start by selecting Arclight, my support ship, and give them the command to begin capturing the center outpost. I'll also use their maneuvering thrusters to move slowly towards the center. Next, I'll order Anansi, my scout ship, to move quickly towards the north outpost. They should be there in a few turns. Finally, I'll select the rest of my ships to advance quickly in order to better defend each other and my weaker ships. Now that everything's been input, I can submit. The center outpost is still neutral, which means my opponent also attempted to capture. Fortunately, I have 2 additional ships which are now in range. I'll start with Gravitas, my armored destroyer, who can begin capturing while slowing down. I'll also fire a missile, which can lock on to enemy ships when I identify their position. Next, I'll select Torrent, my defensive specialist, who will use an ability that can destroy incoming projectiles. I'll also slow down a little bit. Moving over to Arclight, I want to continue to capture the center outpost, but only do some minor movement adjustments to conserve energy. Once bullets really start flying, I'll need everything I have. I can also select the probe I launched last turn and command it to accelerate towards the top left. This will mean, hopefully, it can see enemies quicker and I can adjust my plans. Finally, I'll select Anansi, who will begin accelerating further towards this north outpost. I can also use some spare energy to improve my sensor range. I can now preview the turn to make sure everything is going according to plan. And it looks like my missiles and my probe got caught in my defensive field, so I need to make some adjustments. So I'll click on Torrent, select the defense matrix, and have it deploy a little closer to the ships. Still no good. I'll try one more time, and this time, how about we bring it even further away? Great. Now that everything is behind it, they'll have time to adjust and won't blow up when they enter the field. I'll go back to the current turn and hit submit. I'll hit resolve and see what happened. Okay, reviewing the turn, I can see my probe was shot down by an incoming railgun, and I also see 2 missiles and a probe coming from the top. I was also able to capture the center outpost, which means I will begin gaining influence while my opponent stalls. I can also power their sensors, which will hopefully give me a better shot at seeing them in the center. The first thing I want to do on a turn is protect my ships from incoming damage, so I'll once again select Torrent and use their defensive ability. I'll fire it about here and preview it to make sure that it's going to intercept incoming missiles. Finally, I will give them a slight course adjustment to make sure they're getting out of the way of my other ships. Next, I'll select Gravitas and activate their armor ability, which reduces incoming damage. I'll also fire my array of powerful torpedoes. They may be slow moving, but they'll deliver a powerful punch. I'll also make some maneuvering adjustments to make sure they don't collide. Anansi is now in position and I can begin to decelerate and activate their anti-detection ability. This will allow them to stay hidden and avoid being shot at. I can also turn off their sensors since the center outpost and the new probe should hopefully see the enemy. Finally, I'll use the buffing ability on Arclight to supercharge the energy production of Gravitas and Torrent. With my remaining energy for the turn, I'll launch another probe since the first one was just destroyed. This time, however, I'll give the probe a destination right from the start. I can now scan forward one more time to make sure everything looks good. And it does. Let's submit and see what happens. Quite a lot happened this last turn. Let's break it down. My opponent recaptured the center outpost and captured the lower one. This means they'll be generating influence at a very fast rate, and I need to make a priority of capturing them back. My defense field intercepted a projectile, but one snuck through and did a damage to Torrent. There are also a lot more coming down the center lane, so I'll need to spend some energy to avoid them, or tank it with my Gravitas' heavy armor. I also finally have sight of my enemy ships. They're quite spread out, which means they can cover more ground, but they can't support each other as easily. I should focus on one to eliminate. There are quite a lot of decisions to be made here, so what would you do? I hope you enjoyed this short preview of the opening turns. You can visit Steam right now to add Tactics Adrift to your wishlist and to sign up for the playtest. Signing off.